Call the Kitty Hawk Town Council order this Monday, August 3, 2015, at Kitty Hawk Town Hall. It is now 6 p.m. I'd like to welcome everybody to the town hall meeting. There's not very many of you here, but thank you for coming anyway, and those that are attending by media. Would you join us with a moment of silence and a pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda? Motion to approve. Second. Any change?
Oh, jeez. I'm sorry.
Ah, I am. We got you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right. We are blessed with Superintendent Dave Alberg's Monitor National Marine Sanctuary presentation. Sir?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. As you said, I represent the Monitor National Marine Sanctuary, which is located 18 miles off of Cape Hatteras, North Carolina. And we have been in existence for about 40 years. In fact, this is the 40th anniversary of the site. And our offices are up in Newport News, Virginia. And over the last couple of years, we've been trying to make a better effort of reaching out to the community, even though our offices are in Newport News. The sanctuary is down here. So I just wanted to basically come down and introduce ourselves to you as a city and as a community formally, give you a brief, try not to be very brief, but in terms of history lessons, and talk about some of the things that we do and will be doing in the next couple of years. So in terms of our background, the Monitor shipwreck, which was one of the two ironclads involved in the Battle of Hampton Roads in 1862, which ultimately was lost in December of 1862, was a Union warship and is considered by most to be one of the most historic warships in U.S. waters. In 1973, it was found by Duke University, a team led by Gordon Watts and John Newton, identified in 74. And then in 1975, a law which had been passed which allowed Congress to designate special places in the marine environment, but had not really been applied yet, was used to protect the wreck of the Monitor. At the time, it was outside of state waters, and it was actually even outside of federal waters out on the high sea at 17 miles. Today, it falls within federal waters, but about 235 feet in depth. Scuba was still sort of in its infancy. In 73, 74, people were doing it, but not as many as today. So the wreck was considered, there was no way to really protect it except what would become the Sanctuaries Act. So in January of 1975, the governor of North Carolina petitioned NOAA to designate it as the first national marine sanctuary. And today, we have 14 sites that NOAA manages. It's a division of NOAA different from National Marine Fisheries Service. It's under a group called National Ocean Service. And in essence, we run and manage 14 marine protected areas around the world, from American Samoa to the Hawaiian Islands to Stellwagen Bay. But it all started here off the coast of North Carolina with the Monitor. So in your packets, I've given you some basic information, some brochures and some background material. And there's also a copy of a blue book, which is good nighttime reading if you want to read a federal management plan, but it actually has got some good history on the Monitor on it. So I want to leave those with you and talk a little bit about what our program does and why the Monitor shipwreck portions of it are up in Newport News. When the shipwreck was identified and the sanctuary was established, the question was, how do we, in essence, bring the ship out of the water to the public? And during the 70s and early 80s, to be honest, we didn't do much. It was sort of the purview of the archaeological community and the research community. But in the late 80s, NOAA began to petition museums around the country that could conserve it if we were to bring up portions of the wreck. And the only entity in the United States that really could handle a project that size was the Mariners Museum in Newport News. So between 1998 and 2002, about 200 tons of the shipwreck, the turret, the engine, 1,500 smaller artifacts, and the remains of 2 United States sailors were removed from the shipwreck, brought to Newport News, and conservation work was begun. The sailors were sent to Hawaii to a facility called JPAC, which is where the military identifies unknown fallen soldiers, airmen, and sailors from wars as far back as the War of 1812. Mostly, the facility was set up to establish and identify individuals from Korea and Vietnam. But they've managed all. The remains went there right after recovery, and one of the projects that our office worked on was to petition the Navy to release those remains for burial in Arlington, which we did in 2013 on the 151st anniversary of the Battle of Hampton Roads. So those 2 men who remain unidentified are buried in Arlington, full military honors, and it was one of the highlights of my career. And we had about 10,000 people that were there for the ceremony, and it was a very moving experience to see the nation honoring men that had died so long in the past. But beyond Arlington and the ongoing treatment of these artifacts, we're involved in a lot of education and outreach projects. So one of them is in your packet as well. This is a plastic dive card for a German U-boat. There are 4 of them located off the coast here of North Carolina, out Dare County. This is the U-352. Working with partners like the University of North Carolina's Coastal Studies Institute, Park Service, we've created a series of plastic dive slates that encourage access to these sites as part of heritage tourism and for the dive community. They can take these underwater. It provides a map of the shipwreck, history of the shipwreck, and a little bit about the laws that protect these shipwrecks. And we've been working since about 2008 to map other shipwreck stories in addition to the Monitor that are important to the nation, focusing primarily on Battle of the Atlantic. This year we're going to be doing some work on World War I wrecks, specifically the Diamond Shoals lightship, as we approach the 100th anniversary of World War I and the U.S. involvement. We'll be working on some other World War I wrecks as well. One of the programs that we do this through is a project called Anchor. We worked with Roanoke Island Outfitters to develop a joint training program that takes divers, teaches them basic archaeology. So for folks that have been diving a while and are looking for a new angle, something to keep their interest in it, it's a way to get basic citizen science, get people in the water, measuring shipwrecks, giving them something to do, and then the information we can put on the website and share with other people as well. And we worked on the Triangle wrecks right here off the beach in June with Roanoke Island divers, and it put up an outreach tent on the beach and had hundreds of people over the course of the week come and learn a little bit more about our program. We held a Meet Your Sanctuary event at Kelly's Restaurant back in June as well, just to give folks in the public a chance to come and learn a little bit more about who we are and what we do. And then we also have a citizen advisory council, and within your packet is a sheet that lists by name the people that are on our advisory council. We meet several times a year, public meetings. The next one will be held down here, hopefully in September. And there's a number of folks from Dare County that are on that. Park Service and several government entities have representation on that group, but many of them are citizens at large, conservation, education, and other communities that have a say in what the sanctuary does. As I mentioned, we're going to be diving on the Diamond Shoals lightship this year. We'll also be going back to Monitor, being that this is the 40th anniversary of the sanctuary, and we'll spend a couple days on the Monitor doing some new mapping and looking at the ship in terms of its health. We'll come back and produce more dive slates and materials for the public as well. I also want to point out this document. This is a report we did working with the community, and it was as much for NOAA's benefit to help understand the rich maritime history of the Outer Banks of North Carolina as it was for the public. But I think what we've tried to do is capture here a 100,000-foot overview of the maritime history of the region. And to do that so that it might identify opportunities for NOAA to work within communities to do more things like the dive slates, maritime heritage trails, and things like that. Another thing that we have been working on is listing the number of the shipwrecks off North Carolina's National Historic Landmarks. This doesn't do anything in terms of legal ownership or access, but what it does do is it elevates their visibility on the national arena, helping people outside of Dare County and Nevada and Wyoming and other places to recognize that the state's history and resources don't stop at the shoreline, but the states, the things that make the state so great actually stand out into the surf and off the shore. And if there are ways to do that, the National Register nominations have been a very effective way of trying to help that. One thing that may be coming up, I hope, in the that was identified in our management plan back when we printed it, was the issue of potential expansion of the monitor sanctuary, which right now is just a 1 mile column of water. It is our hope that NOAA gives a green light to issue a notice of intent to begin exploring that sometime this year, perhaps even this summer. If that happens, doesn't change anything with the sanctuary, but it does require us then to begin holding scoping meetings and public hearings to get information from the public and from communities and partners, federal agencies, state agencies, local governments, on what the impacts of an expanded sanctuary might be, what the rules might be, what they shouldn't be, what would be good, what wouldn't be good for communities. And so hopefully we'll begin to have that discussion. One of the challenges we had in developing the management plan is that idea came up, but NOAA was not in a position to have a position on expansion. So people were asking questions, would it change this? Well, how would it impact that? And we had no answers because we hadn't started looking at that. But hopefully that will happen this year, and if so, one of my goals tonight was to just get in front of you, make sure that you knew there was somebody you could talk to if questions came up, if you wanted additional information, I was available to answer that for you. So don't want to take up too much more of your time, but if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Well, if we're asked a question, why would you want to expand beyond the 1 mile column? What would be our answer?
Well, my answer, just Dave Albert's answer, would be what we found is that there are about 3,500 shipwrecks off the coast of North Carolina between Hatteras and Lookout. Not all of those shipwrecks are significant in the national story. Many of them may not even exist anymore. But there are a few. The U-boats, some of the World War II losses that are some of the places that serve as war graves today that, quite frankly, to some extent have been impacted by material being taken off them, people coming down, removing artifacts. And what we propose, I think, is ultimately a model that doesn't exclude access, does not require a permitting structure, but acknowledges that these sites are important, try to find ways to keep artifacts coming off these war graves, and again, like we've done with some of these other things, elevate the significance of these shipwrecks through protection under the Sanctuaries Act and through partnerships with the community to find more ways to promote and give us the authority to work with you in even greater ways to put, for instance, mooring balls perhaps on some of these to facilitate greater access for more ships and reduce impacts to the wreck. Right now, I don't have the authority to do that because we don't manage that. They're just out there. And unfortunately, no one, in some cases, is really looking after them, even though they may be military wrecks. But because Monitor's been operating here for 40 years, we're kind of uniquely positioned, I think, to do that. And we have a very rich history. If you look at some of our other sanctuaries, specifically Thunder Bay up in Lake Michigan, of really doing everything from a grassroots and a community-based management approach, so that everything, it's not the government coming down saying we're going to do this, this, and this, but trying to find a way forward that benefits and maximizes opportunities with the community and make decisions that way.
Anyone else?
I just have one question. If you raise the, raise the level of the importance of all of this, sometimes you get the feeling that you're sort of afraid to do something like that because of all of these other regulations and things that you don't know about that all of a sudden will start, proliferating.
Yes, ma'am.
So, how, I think that people have a reluctance to take all of this, take so much at face value because of some of the experiences that have been particularly off of the coast of the Outer Banks. And, I just think that would be worrisome to some of the local people.
Understood. And I frankly couldn't agree with you more. We've tried to be very sensitive in the last few years and really trying to understand the issues here, some of the histories with other federal agencies that have caused some concerns and irritations, how things both, and even within our own agency, with the National Marine Fisheries Service, how there have been concerns with local communities. The sanctuary program has always been managed a little bit different, and again, I would not be putting something in front of you that says this is the way it is. What we want to do is start with a clean sheet of paper through these scoping meetings and through the process, and as I said, really drive it from the community level, hear those concerns, we respect them, but I think that my work over the last 10 years on these regs, I'm convinced that and seeing how we manage other sites within the system, that there is a way to make this come out, if it goes forward, as a real win for the community without any of the issues of fear, creeping jurisdiction and things like that. If we start with this, it ends up being something different. I think if we work together at the beginning, I think that there's an opportunity here, just like the state in 1975 was out on the forefront of establishing these sanctuaries, there may be new opportunities for the state like that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you. It's very informative.
Yes,
Some
sir.
things there I didn't know were going on.
And at any point, if there are other questions, we're up the road a little bit, but I'm happy to come back down and talk to individuals if you'd like another public meeting at any point. Just information, we're happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Moving on, next is public comment. Lynn, do we have anybody signed up?
No, sir.
Is there anybody out there that wishes to speak at this public comment? Anyone? Let the record show, no one came forward at this portion. All right, consent agenda. Any changes to the consent agenda? If not, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, consent agenda is approved, and we've removed nothing off of it, so there's no further comment. Next, we have planning, and we have a site plan review. Dennis is going to expand, I reckon. Rob, fill us in, please.
All right, you probably remember, I think it was December or January, shortly after I started, Atlantic Dentistry had a proposal for a 74 square foot breezeway addition between the middle building and the southernmost building on the property. After that point, in May of this year, the applicant submitted an application to amend that site plan approval. The addition was going to be increased from 74 square feet to 396 square feet, and also removing some other existing concrete to keep the lot coverage under that 60% maximum. I approved that one administratively, and then after that point, I guess the applicant and the engineer were reviewing the plans and realized that where they had placed that addition was going to require them to relocate a lot of electrical utilities, and they started to get a little cost prohibitive at that time. So since that point, we've gotten this new site plan application. This would include a 458 square foot addition, and they're also proposing for this plan to demolish the existing southernmost building. Evidently, it's not in the greatest of condition, and rebuild that one in the same footprint that it's currently in. You can see on the site plan, this is the location of the existing building that would come down and be rebuilt, and 450 square foot, or 458 square foot addition in this area. And to accommodate for the extra square footage for lot coverage, you see this 343 square foot concrete pad right here would be removed. Other than that, there's really no other changes from the previous approval. Required parking is the same. They're going to keep the same amount of parking spaces. No changes to the two access points except for widening the northernmost one, which was on the January approval or December approval. I think that's about all the new proposals for it. Just for some background on the property, it's 35,563 square feet. All of the properties surrounding the subject parcel are all zoned BC1 and contain various commercial uses. Across the bypass, zone BR1, and there's some residences over there. The new proposal has been designed to still meet the lot coverage requirements of 60%. Currently, 39.4% of the property is open space. This proposal will reduce lot coverage slightly, so the open space will increase by a 1/10% or so. The proposed addition and new building are going to be 1 story in height, so it'll be well under the 35-foot height maximum. All the buildings comply with setback requirements, and the new one, as it's being rebuilt in the same footprint, that'll still meet that 10-foot side yard setback. That about covers all my points. I can open up to questions, and the engineer Carlos is here for any questions you might have with him as well.
Council, have any questions?
No, sir.
All right, I have a couple. And just to clear up, there was, at the last time, the owner of the lot to the north had a question about dumpsters and access to dumpsters and not moving gravel around, and how did we accommodate his concerns in this plan?
That, I think, was being worked out by the owner of the dentistry and the owner of the property to the north. And there's, I guess, a possibility of a future plan that's going to address that even further. But as far as I've been made aware, there's no issues. I think it's still a matter of getting the property line resolved between the two owners. It wouldn't have anything to do with the site plan meeting the zoning requirements.
Okay.
If I'm recalling correctly, the property owner to the north had a different survey that showed the property line
Correct.
a couple feet over.
Right.
So I think that's more in the realm of civil matters for them to come to an agreement on.
Well, but if it civilly winds up that the property line is moved south a little bit, does that affect what we're doing here tonight?
The only way I could see that it would affect would be in lot coverage, and if that is the case, then we can get with okay.
I'm Carlos Gomez, coastal engineer and surveyor. How are you? We work it out, so should it go in the other direction and the client dentistry loses land, then it still be under the requirement.
Okay, so if the line
If
is,
it goes to worst case scenario,
okay, that was my concern.
yes.
And right now, the dumpster location, which was on the south end of the building, has been moved up underneath the oak tree in some fashion, according to
Yes.
this.
Where it is, no,
That's the current location.
that's the current location. He was talking about his dumpster that is on his south end of the property, and the garbage trucks get across from this property into his.
Right.
And that was his concern.
Okay, so we have a dumpster over here on the south side. It says relocated dumpster.
Oh, yes.
Is that affected, is that part of this
No.
site plan?
No. What we need to make sure is that that we need to make sure his dumpster is pushed to his property.
Right,
Because right now, it's on the people from Sweet Frogs have, or the garbage truck puts it onto their property, and we want to make sure that it's in there. But it's a letter I'm writing to them.
all right, well, one last question.
Yes, sir.
And it doesn't show very well up there, but where that relocated dumpster is, there's a shadowed line to the south of what appears to be the property line. What is that shadowed line denoting? It looks like it's on another person's property. It's part of the same shadowing as the rest
Oh,
of the driveway.
that's their drive. So Sweet Frogs Drive.
Okay, All right, so that's just showing a shared driveway.
Yes.
All right, that's all I've got. But I knew we had a problem from before. I just wanted to be sure for the record that we understood what was going on. All right, council, what do you want to do with this site plan?
I'll make a motion.
All right,
I move to grant approval of the revised site plan of Atlantic Dentistry Office building at 3764 North Crowtown Highway.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, site plan is approved. Hopefully you won't be bringing back any more. All right, next we've got some calls for public hearing. And at the end of the calls for public hearing on B and C, I have some comments, but I'm going to hold them until we find out what council wants to do. So, call for public hearing on amendment section 42-621-15, which is dealing with trailers in what we've all known as Dogwood Mobile Home Park. So, council, what do you want to do as far as calling for a hearing? We're not discussing it tonight, we're just calling for the hearing. Do you hear a motion to call?
I move to set a public hearing at the town council meeting on September 8th, 2015, to consider a text amendment to, get the right one here, yeah. A text amendment to subsection 42-621-15, allowing trailers as defined to be located in a mobile home park if certain requirements are met.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Comments? Opposed? All right, we have a hearing scheduled for September meeting. Next, we have a conditional use permit hearing, mobile home park in the preserve, what's now known as preserve, but again was known to us as Dogwood Mobile Home Park. Actually, was it mobile home park or just
Trailer park.
Dogwood Trailer Park?
Dogwood trailer.
Yeah, so we always used trailers as a mobile home.
It's very confusing.
But now we have a different definition in the code entirely, so it's a little bit confusing. All right, do I hear a call for that public hearing, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move to set a public hearing at the town council meeting on September the 8th, 2015, to consider a conditional use permit application to establish a mobile home park at 4352 The Woods Road.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have a call for that public hearing. Now, before we go on to a gas station, I'm going to hand out some stuff, and Rob, I want you to come up and get something. There's some items, when I did some research on these two, they kind of intermingle the same thing, and our code is pretty specific on both trailers and mobile homes and parks and such. And I have some real questions. I want to give you time to research so that council has a full knowledge of what we're going into when we do have the hearing. I would expect some comments at that hearing, to be perfectly honest. So this will give you some heads up and time to plan. See, I don't know if I got enough there for the,
We got them.
you already got everybody?
Yep.
All right. Okay, I'm not going to read these into the record, Lynn, but note that I did hand out a sheet. You can attach it if you want. And this gets a little squirrely with what we're being asked to do. So you're going to need to read the code, folks. I did, and I come away with questions. All right. Now, we have a call for a public hearing, conditional use on a gas station that's been dormant for a while. And I need to explain to you folks why I told Rob to go ahead and bring this forward. There's a technical glitch in that it was out of business for a long time, went past the 180-day that conditional use would allow. It has not come before the planning board yet. They'll be doing this in a couple of days, and there is no reason to believe that anything has changed such that it would not allow them to bring it to us. So I expect it to come to us, and in the interest of trying to get that place back up and running, It's being rehabbed, let's get it on the road. I told him to bring the hearing call to us. That's the reason, all right? Do I hear a motion to call for hearing?
Mr. Mayor, I move to set a public hearing at the Town Council meeting of September 8, 2015, to consider a conditional use permit application to reestablish a gas station at 4017 North Croatown Highway.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Bring that to us, Rob, and we'll see where we go with that. Now we have new business. It's an amendment to Chapter 20, Sections 2051, 2052, and 2054 of the Town Code. Is Rob or the police chief or the manager going to handle this? Which one of you?
I could address this, Mr. Mayor. I was discussing this with the police chief, and he had requested that we make amendments to Section 2051, 2052, and 2054 of the Town Code. As of now, there's no provision for restricting overnight parking at the bathhouse located at 3840 North Virginia Dare Trail, and the revision to 20-51 addresses this provision. Police Department presently has no way of ticketing trailers, semi-trailers, and prefabricated cargo shipping containers if they're parked in beach access parking lots. However, it is desirable to allow the trailers and/or containers in the beach access parking areas in an emergency situation. Consideration will also be given to contractors working for the town should they need a staging area for construction work for the town. So Section 2052 addresses this issue. Police Department also needs to have enforcement power to ticket trailers, semi-trailers, and prefabricated cargo shipping containers. They're parked in designated parallel parking zones. Again, in an emergency situation, it may be desirable to have the trailers and containers parking in the parallel parking zones. Again, consideration is given to allow contractors working for the town to be able to utilize the parallel parking zones when doing construction for the town. Section 20-54 will address this issue. And we have attached the amendments. They're bold and underlined. So, any questions?
Any questions? All right. Well, basically what we're doing is we're bringing the bathhouse to the same condition in overnight parking as Lillian Street and whatnot. I guess the bathhouse came a long time ago, so long before Lillian Street and Bird Street. So that'll take care of that. And this will allow the police department some control over who and what and how long they're parking in some of these parallel parking. That issue came up before, and we realized we didn't have any way to cover it. Do we hear a motion to approve this?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
We still won't have no overnight parking on the streets between the highways, correct? Because as far as I know, there's not a no overnight parking restriction there.
Not an overnight restriction
Yeah.
there. But there is technically a 48-hour restriction because we are parking the right of way. You know,
Yeah.
officers know how I am about illegal parking. I'm about like that, like on Brook Drive. But zero tolerance, so we'll tag them. We'll see if they're overnight. Put a warning ticket on the window. We don't like to tow cars. We don't have a practice of that. But the parallel parking, if I can just add to y'all, someone could drop a semi-trailer on Luke Street and for 2 days, we can't do anything about it. Now this gives us some teeth to have it towed, but we didn't have it in the parallel parking zone. They can drop a 60-foot boat there for 2 days. We couldn't do anything about it legally. 2 days. So now we can say, hey, move it. You can't move it there. And all they have to do is move it for a couple hours and put it back. So we had some issues with contractors. So this gives us a little bit of teeth to have them move it. It's a law, and just to kind of sharpen it up. And I'm open to suggestions if y'all have any other suggestions about something there.
Well, those parallel parking spots were put there primarily for people to enjoy the beach.
Yeah, exactly. I
And
mean,
there was a lot of flack over that.
oh, yeah, yeah. See, I may be in a minority here, but as far as the parallel parking places are concerned, the overnight parking, sometimes I think that's kind of a blessing because you get party time going on, and it's nice to just think that they're leaving their cars there, rather than getting in them for, after they've been celebrating at one or another rental houses. But the parallel parking, they park every which way, they just park every which way. And it's,
Our main concern about that is that they're not blocking the driveway or in the roadway, if they're in the roadway, then we'll
yeah,
take
yeah,
care of it.
yeah. But it's really hard when you're trying to get through the intersection and trying to look down the street, and you just can't see. But,
And the overnight parking is from 10 to 5 at the 3 beach accesses. And we normally don't tow unless it's a problem, we just put a warning ticket on the dash. And if it becomes a problem, we see it every night. Usually it's people sleeping, and we move them on. So we don't have a practice, there's a car in there, we tow it. So we don't do that.
Yeah.
So it's just to deter people from leaving their cars there for weeks on end.
And if it becomes a problem when the parallel parking, bring it to us.
Yes, sir.
I had asked him earlier about that, and he said he didn't have a problem yet, so we'll leave it alone. All right, we'll leave people alone as much as we can,
yeah.
basically. Did we make a motion?
No.
All right, do I hear a motion?
I'll move the amendment, move to approve the amendment to Chapter 20, Motor Vehicle and Traffic, Article 3, Stopping, Standing, and Parking, Section 20-51, No Parking Zones, Time Restricted Parking, Section 2052, Parking of Trucks or Trailers on Town Beach Access Parking Lots, and Section 2054, Parallel Parking. Further move that the mayor be authorized to sign and the town clerk to attest to said amendment.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any further comment? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, chief. Get your ticket book out. All right. John, you're up again.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, a few things to mention to council this evening. I wanted to let council know our status on our easement agreements. We've sent out 275 easement agreements for the beach nourishment project, and to date, we've received 104 signed easement agreements, so we're moving along with that and getting a good response. I wanted to mention that we had received a compliment from Gray's Department Store, thanking the town for allowing Sergeant Strickland to come speak to their staff on July 14th concerning shoplifting and employee theft. Gray employs some 60 to 65 sales associates during the summer months, and his training is helpful to the seasonal employees. We also received a compliment from Mr. Clay Richards, who lives in Kill Devil Hills and works at the Home Depot, to say how pleased he was to see the traffic control at the Visitor Center intersection on Saturdays. That seems to be working pretty well. Also, I wanted to mention to council, coastal planning and engineering is some 99% complete in their scope of work pertaining to permitting and design. In May of this year, coastal planning and engineering continued to develop the CAMA major permit application, as well as a notice to adjacent riparian property owners. Since June, CP&E has continued to work on finalizing the engineering design report, which should be available at any time. The final geotechnical report was completed on June 18th and was submitted to the town. That is available in case members of council wish to look at that. We also received a recent letter from CAMA regarding the permit application submitted by Coastal Planning and Engineering. And CAMA is requiring that CP&E to provide some 48 additional beach samples. Coastal Planning and Engineering is proposing to provide beach sampling and analysis services using funds initially authorized as contingency funds. The contingency fund was established in the event that more VibraCore samples were needed. Since additional VibraCore samples are not needed, the funds can be used for the beach sampling, which will cost $13,245. And the town will not be required to authorize funds in excess of our existing agreement. So that worked out fine. Also wanted to just mention that Mr. Michael had reached an agreement in the Winks case, and we were receiving $500 per month for 27 months. That's been taken care of. And then one last thing, I just mentioned, I received a note from Barbara Brown, and she wanted to thank the Public Works Director for installing a sign on the bike path asking speed cyclists to slow down on the bike path. Evidently, there was a little bit of a problem with that, so we've taken care of that. And that's all I have.
And no member of council can go out with a sand bucket and take the samples. We have to have some $13,000 sampling device. These are on the beach, not offshore.
These are
right?
beach, yes, these are on the beach, not off the beach, that's right.
$13,000.
It's a big business, isn't it?
You gotta wonder.
Yeah.
My grandchildren could help them.
Yeah, and dig a hole deeper and they can get them. All right. Mr. Attorney, do you have anything for us?
Don't have anything else for you tonight, Mayor.
Yeah, we didn't need that. All right, town council?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I attended the annual Recreation Committee where they appoint their officers, and I'd just like to read these back to you. Christine Buckner was reappointed as chairwoman of the Recreation Committee. Vice Chairman Dusty Rhodes was reappointed, and Rita Phyllis was reappointed as their secretary. On business matters, I informed them on what you had asked about the reminding them that a lot of the money that is in the fund that we're using to maintain the facilities, and they accepted that very well. And so they came up with an idea where they want to look into pedestrian crossroads and the safety of people crossing the roads throughout the winter, to look at some of the areas in town that maybe something that can be done to make the access across the beach road safer for our guests as well as our year-round locals. They're looking to just kind of brainstorm to maybe think about the flag system that we had a presentation, or to maybe just highlight some of the roads to get them repainted brighter, and just something that they can do to improve the recreational accessibility to the beach and without cost to the town. And so that's going to be their project that they're looking to move ahead on. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Craig? No, sir.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge the fire department did an outstanding job on the sandbar, and the Ocean Rescue in assisting us with the Relief Foundation putting on the sandbar. This is the 13th year we've done it. And great participation. Lowell, your staff was wonderful. Cole and the whole crew were out there, and we were pleased, and I was proud of the job they did. Raised a lot of money for a good foundation, and also Public Works was out there helping us out too. So everybody did a great job, and we really appreciate what y'all guys do. Thank you.
I have one comment. Last year, we had people that were coming before council to report problems with those canopies and tents and such. And the brochure that Ocean Rescue hands out now has a fairly prominent item about that. And I have noticed that there's really been quite a reduction. I may be wrong, but it appears that there's quite a reduction in the number of those things that are being left on the beach overnight. So looks like what we've done is effective. I think probably some of the word getting back from some of the other towns that are taking them and throwing them away might be helping us. But I just have noticed, and when I walk in the morning, I see many fewer things left behind now.
The lack of a
That was
beach
a
to
nice
put them
job.
on is not part of the problem.
Well, I think that was the motivation. People put them up as far as they can in front of the oceanfront houses or some vacant dunes, because when high tide comes in, you just don't have very much room out there on the beach.
That's my point
Yeah.
exactly. There's not much room. All right. For council's information, on the 18th, there is a meeting with CP&E and all the other beach nourishment meeting down at Kill Devil Hills. CP&E called that, so I'm not 100% sure unless it has to do with the 4 samples that John was talking about and some other issues there. So we still got a long way to go on this project. I mean, we've done our part so far, but there's an awful lot of hurdles, not just here, but with money and with the legislature. And I may be going to Raleigh on Wednesday to meet with some people on that very issue. So I'll keep you informed if I go. John, do we know how many easements have to go out? What, do you know the total number? 376.
276. 276.
Oh, 270.
276.
She said they've all been sent.
So all but one is gone? They're all gone.
Roll out.
Okay, that includes the south part. South of historic or
Yes.
whatever.
Yes.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that. I wasn't sure if that would included that.
And when did the last of those go out? Last week. So when I heard 104, I thought, there's still a lot to go.
Yeah.
But some of them have just now gone out.
Okay, good. All right, I'm glad to hear that. That's very encouraging. All right, the last public comment. Anybody left to public comment? Anybody wish to comment? Let the record show nobody was here to come comment. All right, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done.